And welcome everybody, it's Dan. Hope you're well today. So I don't know what day it is, Thursday I think. Happy Thursday everybody. Welcome to the Property Cashflow Show. My name is Daniel Latto. It still is. It was that yesterday, it'll be that tomorrow. Let's crack on with, I have no idea what I'm doing today. Let's crack on with talking about property, shall we? So first up, we've got further rent rises. And what I always find really interesting on things like Twitter, for example, are the number of people talking about rents, haven't got a clue. They're not landlords, never been a landlord, but the tenants. So, well, I've been a tenant for 30 years, so they must be experts. And they haven't got a bloody clue what's going on. Have no idea about Section 24, have no idea about mortgage interest rates. It's obviously affecting people up and down the country. And what's happening increasingly so is that people are coming off their fixed rates. They're moving on to variable rates. Well, what do you think is going to happen? You know, when your landlord's mortgage was £1,000 at 2%, and now it's 6%, whatever it is that 3 times more? How much do you think their mortgage has gone up if the mortgage is £1,000? I don't know. Let's stick a finger in the air. Let's say 3 times the amount. Is that how it works? I have no idea. But do you think rents are going up because of that? Landlords coming off a fixed rate at 2%. We've not put rents up for a couple of years. Now it's at 6% or 7% or whatever the standard variable rate is for them. Like, what do you think's going to happen? There's only one thing to happen, and that's that rent increases are going to go up. That's the first bit, right? Then, because we've already had rent interest rate rises, and because we've already had rent increases, and we've already had interest rate increases, what happens is that landlords are just going through life, meandering through, not really keeping an eye on what's going on. And then what happens next year is that they get their tax return. This is the bit that's never talked about. The tax return for a landlord, because landlords are effectively paying tax now on their rental income, not their profits. Section 24. If you don't know what we're talking about, then you need to be very aware of Section 24. So landlords are paying tax on their income. And what's happening is that because they're paying tax on income, for a lot of tenants, they're now paying 40% tax on their rent, because the landlord is now liable for 40% tax instead of a 20-odd% tax they were paying before. So now the landlord's paying twice as much in tax. So the landlord whose original mortgage was £1,000, let's say it's only gone up to £2,000 for a mortgage, now they've put the rents up from, say, £1,000 to £2,000, and on a 40% tax on £1,000 to a 40% tax on £2,000. It doesn't quite work like that, but they're very randomised figures, very approximate figures. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Rent rises. It's the only thing possibly that's going to happen. And we're all meandering through, just trying to get through Christmas. We're all waiting for a general election and hoping for the best. And new mortgage rates, they're slightly lower than they were before, even though the Bank of England hasn't dropped interest rates. And I can't really see Bank of England dropping interest rates. But all that's going to happen is the landlord's going to get to the tax return. Their rents have gone up. They may have been pushed into a 40% tax band, and it's only income over that 40% tax band that's now taxable at 40%. But they've been pushed across that band, across the board, and the profits are not there anymore in property because everything's gone up. The cost of plaster's gone up. The cost of the plaster has gone up. The cost of paint's gone up. The cost of fuel and energy for those HMOs, all that's gone up significantly, and now landlords are also being pushed up because their interest rate rises have gone up, and now their rents have gone up, and because the rents have gone up means their tax liability has gone up. And they don't know that until they do their next tax return. What do you think is going to happen, folks? Rents are going to go up through the bloody roof is what's going to happen. And then what's going to happen is the press will be all over it, and Labour will all be all over it. And you know what language they're going to use? Greedy landlords push rents up again. It's like, no. That's not what's happening. It's not that landlords are greedy. It's that they're losing money. They're paying more in tax than profit they're earning. They're not even earning profit. They're just paying more in tax on profit they haven't made because of Section 24. And nobody ever talks about this. It's not on mainstream media. It's not on the BBC. I mean, the BBC are just useless anyway. They don't even understand inflation. When we're in a supermarket talking about inflation dropping and asking people, have you noticed your prices dropping? Like, clearly they don't even know what inflation means. So it's not there. It's not being discussed. And all that happens is that the people discussing it, the people hate landlords, and then they call them greedy landlords and all the rest of it. And then we're just into yet more landlord bashing. And then guess what landlords are doing? Landlords are going, well, screw this. You hate me anyway. I'm just leaving, right? And because landlords are leaving, we're going to talk about auction discounts shortly, but because landlords are leaving, guess what happens then? Landlords leave the market, there's more properties flooding onto the market, the prices on those properties hasn't really dropped much. The prices that I sold some properties this year for 160 grand, they're still the same prices on the internet now. So prices haven't really dropped. And people go on about, well, more landlords leaving, that's really good because they'll flood the market and then the prices go down. Oh, really? Because they've gone down, haven't they? No, that's not what's happened at all. Because a number of properties coming onto the market doesn't mean that people magically have these deposits available. It's just not what happens. And actually what happens is all these properties coming onto the market now, guess what happens to rental properties? Well, there's less of them. And people argue and they counter with it and go, yeah, but more first-time buyers are buying. No, they're not, because they haven't got the deposits to buy with. How does that happen? They don't magically find it. So it's impossible for that to happen. All that happens is there's less properties available, there's more tenants looking for less properties, prices go up again. Perfect storm. We've been talking about this for a number of years now. And oh no, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh really? Is that why rents have gone up so much then? Because we don't know what we're talking about. 25 years we've been in this game. We know more than the average person. But apparently we don't. Anyway, Dan's little rant about further rent rises there. It's happening, folks. We know it's happening. We had a one-bed flat in Bradford and we had a family with three children, 5 people, wanting to rent a one-bed flat. And it's like, no, it's overcrowded. I can't even put you in that flat. Even if I wanted to, which I don't want to put 5 people into one-bed flat. Why would I want to do that? It's just going to increase my risk of overcrowding, getting fined, damages to property, complaints from neighbours, and so on and so forth. No, I just want to put 1 or 2 people into that flat that it was built for in the first place, not 5 or 6 people. Anyway, let's talk about serviced accommodation websites, shall we? Because we just literally got off a phone call about serviced accommodation websites. A couple of things came up about that. Because obviously, I don't know if you know this, but Booking.com right now, and certainly recently, have really been struggling in paying their serviced accommodation partners, shall we call them, but not just serviced accommodation, but hotel owners. They've really struggled paying them, and nobody seems to know why. Even Booking.com don't seem to know why they are unable to pay some of their suppliers, but it's definitely been happening. There's a group on Facebook called Booking.com not paying their suppliers, or whatever it's called. Go find it. But so what's happened is a lot of people have then come off Booking.com and they're now trying to just create their own websites and failing in doing so, because there's a couple of things that's needed if you're going to go down a Bookings website, serviced accommodation website process. So one of the things that you need is you need your website to be able to synchronize with Airbnb, for example. Otherwise, if you accept a booking on Airbnb and it's not updated your booking, and then you book a booking on your own website, now you've double booked. That actually can cause quite a few problems. So you want these two to talk to each other. You want the Airbnb website to talk to your website, and you want your website to talk to the Airbnb, so they're synchronized. And then also you want your Airbnb style website to talk to Booking.com, for those people that are still using Booking.com, so that your centralized website is always synchronized with Airbnb and Booking.com. If you don't do this, you're going to end up kind of double booking, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems. And then the other thing that you really want to do is you want to have like a little section on your service accommodation website for places to eat. I mean, maybe you get a discount, or it's an affiliate code, takeaways, websites, for restaurant websites, that kind of thing. That should all be on there. as well. And then you also want another tab with, places to visit. So if there's castles nearby, or if there's theatre visits nearby, and that should be updated. If you've got Dirty Dancing on at the cinema and your service accommodation is just next to it, then you want an affiliate link for that, and you want to be posting out to your visitors, hey, have you thought about doing this one weekend? Like, you can make a bit of extra cash. So that should be on there. You should have all these images, even a video walkthrough. Like, the thing that you want to avoid is surprises. So when someone turns up at your Airbnb and the bedroom's a little bit small, you want to be upfront about that. You don't want to be hiding it, because what's going to happen is that if you hide the fact that your bedroom's a little bit small and when someone turns up, they're going to give you a bad review. And we know that Booking.com and Airbnb, that's your bread and butter, is getting really good reviews across the board. And so you want to make it as easy as possible for people to book. And we call this frictionless, right? So in e-commerce world or website world, we call it frictionless transactions. And you don't want to have it so people, they put in the dates that they want to book, and then they send it over to you, and then you check, then you give them a price, and then they go, yeah, that's fine. And then you send them a link, and then they pay. They don't want to do any of that. They just want to look there and then. How much is it? Can I book it? Oh, look, it's £400 for 4 nights, £100 a night. I'm going to book it. I know what the check-in time is. It's 2 p.m. I know what the strict checkout time is. It's 11 a.m. That's what I'm going to book. And then I want I want breakfast in the morning. That's an extra 20 quid. I want a towel pack. That's an extra £10. Whatever it's going to be, right? And you want to allow people the opportunity to add some of that onto their booking. You want to make it as easy as possible on your booking system. And then if you do that, then the next bit, of course, that you need is you need the ability to post out across social media and then drive traffic back to your serviced accommodation website. That's number one. And then number two is you want to be writing articles about your serviced accommodation in Leeds. So let's say, for example, you've got a short-term let in Leeds City Centre and it's 2 minutes from the train station. You want to be writing lots of articles about that and embedding keywords into it as well. So that when someone types short-term lets Leeds or serviced accommodation Leeds or flats near the train station Leeds for short-term lets, literally that long, a key phrase, that's what you should be writing articles about. So now you're starting to get into the search engine optimization. Going back when we owned a lettings agency 12 years ago. I think we sold it in 2011. It was about 12 years ago. And we owned it for about 10 years. And when, obviously, the internet, between 21 and 10 years ago, between that time scale, it's kind of fresh and kind of new. And we owned the first page of Google with various websites for our serviced accommodation, because we're a letting agency as well. We would then also rent out other people's properties under the same umbrella, and we made a lot of money doing that. And so the reason why we were able to do that is because our serviced accommodation websites had a whole bunch of content on them, so that when you went to Google and you typed it in serviced accommodation websites Leeds, we came up number one. And you want the same opportunity in your business to do that as well. Let me just grab a quick drink here. We're talking very fast at the moment. I'm starving. We've got so much to get through today. We still want to go live. Anyway, let me grab a quick drink. So next up then, something I just want to share with you. I saw this yesterday. Property sourcing compliance fine. Let me just pull this up. Actually, I wonder if I can share this screen. Let me just pull this up here. Yes, let me share this screen because I think you'll find it's quite interesting. Let me just share screen 2. And obviously, if you're listening to this on the... what are you listening to it on? If you're listening to this on the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to kind of read it anyway. Oh, I can't make it bigger. Let me just see if I can open image in new tab. Try that one. Yes. Okay, let me just make this bigger and then let me share screen. Because this is really important. This is something I came across yesterday. So just checking you can still hear me. Yes. So this is a letter that's been received. So I'm just going to read it. This is from HMRC. Economic Crime Supervision for money laundering, terrorist financing and transfer of funds information of a payer regulations 2017. Basically, this letter is to advise the business that I intend to issue it with a penalty of £1,350 for this breach after 30 days from the date of this letter. Up here, this letter is to advise that the business that I intend to charge for a penalty for trading whilst unregistered prior to its application. This is a breach of Regulation 56.5 in reference of Regulation 55.3 of the regulations. HMRC will also charge a business a penalty administration charge. This charge makes sure that those who are compliant with the regulations do not pay for the cost of HMRC imposing civil measures. We cap the charge at the level of £350. So therefore, the total payable amount is £1,700. So when people are talking about property sourcing compliance fines, this is what we're talking about, folks. This is on the 23rd of March, so it's this year. Oh no, I'm a co-sourcer. I don't need to have property sourcing compliance. It's very, very clear, folks, that as a co-sourcer, there's no such thing, right? If you're an employee of the business that is doing the sourcing, you're fine. But the government has very strict regulations as to what an employee actually is. And unless you're an employee, and you and I both know whether you're an employee or not, we know it, right? You know it, and I know it. Oh, well, I'll just call you an employee. That's not an employee, right? I feel a little bit silly having to state that in such clear terms. But if you're saying, oh, well, we'll just say you're an employee, you're not really an employee, right? So if you're not, you are liable. You are opening yourself up to be fined in such a way. So the person that shared this on LinkedIn, I asked them, can I share this? And I'm also going to put it in our property sourcing training program, because I think this kind of demonstrates very well that they are on it. Not all the time, admittedly, not all the time. And you have to be very unlucky to get caught. But are you going to get caught at some point? If you speed at 120 miles an hour all the time, do you think you're going to get caught? Yeah. Do you think you're going to get banned and fined and all the rest of it? Yeah. Do you think you're going to have an accident and kill somebody? There's a good chance of that, right? If you speed every so often, those chances are less. And I'm not saying you should be speeding 70 miles an hour on those motorways like I travel. Sometimes I travel 71. You know, to overtake somebody, I travel at 71 miles an hour like a truck doing 50 miles an hour, and another truck doing 50.00001 miles an hour on the dual carriageways. It takes them 14 hours to overtake. I'm like one of those trucks because I never go over the speed limit, as you should never go over the speed limit either, because we all are law-abiding citizens, as you should be on your property sourcing compliance. But many people are not compliant. And they know it, and you know it, and I know it, and we all know it, and you're going to get fined. The link to the property sourcing compliance program is just below, by the way. You should go and take a look at that. Let's talk about auction discounts, by the way. Obviously, we're heading towards December now, and obviously interest rates have gone up, and obviously landlords are fed up. They're sick and tired of being picked on, sick and tired of being demonised, sick and tired of tenants. What is it with tenants? We had a tenant yesterday complaining at me because they didn't top up their electricity, and now the electricity thing's gone off and they've not been able to get access to the meter. And it's like, well, here's the phone number to the management company to get you access to the meter cupboard to switch it back on. And suddenly all the food's gone off in their fridge, and now that's suddenly my fault. It's like, dude, I'm 1,000 miles away. Nothing to do with me, the fact that you didn't pay your electricity bill. I don't know what it is with tenants these days, but take some responsibility for yourself, you know. What else we got? We got landlords putting properties back on the market and then they're not selling, and they're in negative cash flow on these properties, right? So they're now losing a lot of money. So they're going to go to auction to offload these properties as fast as they can to get out of it. So I think right now is probably a good time, as we're heading towards December. You know, go check out some of those auctions. I think that if you're cash ready and looking for some bargains, I think auctions right now is probably going to be a good place for you to be able to go and do that. And that's really all I got to say about that today. A very quick one, he says, coming in at 20 minutes. But we're just absolutely rammed, so we're going to call it there. But I do hope that that's useful. If you've got anything you want to say, come and have a chat with me, and we'll catch up with you later on. Other than that, have a wicked day, and we'll speak soon. Take care.